Originally, I was going to do the year in review, but Jason Black already beat me to it. So, what we're going to do is we're going to have a short video this evening so that we can put an emphasis on the year in preview. What's ahead of us for 2020? First thing is we're going to keep our eye on the ball, and that ball is tangibles. Reparations is only part of tangibles. Tangibles is the big picture. Reparations is part of it. And I've been saying this for years. Even if slavery had never happened, we would still be pushing for our tangibles because as citizens of this country, we're supposed to get a share of the society that we keep paying taxes and doing work for the building of. Now, this seems to be a difficult thing for a lot of black folks to wrap our minds around. They think the reparations is the end all and be all, and it's not. Go ahead and get that tattooed on the underside of your eyelids if you have to. Even if slavery had never happened, we would still be due tangibles by benefit of the fact that we are here. Reparations is part of a far larger, far more important goal, which is tangibles. Tangibles is what we're supposed to get every freaking day. We are owed reparations because we built this country, and white supremacy robbed us of what we should have gotten for our hard work. We are due tangibles, however, simply by benefit of the fact that we're citizens, we pay taxes, and we have a right to make the most of our lives in the society that we live in. We have a right to be able to take total advantage of the formal opportunities that exist. And this ought to be our focus in all arenas of our lives, especially when it comes to people outside the black community. If you're not one of the former slaves who laid the foundation of this country, in that case, then when we're dealing with you, it's going to be a matter of strictly business, because that's what it is when they deal with us. We are going to continue our efforts to reinforce the brainwashing, washing our minds of the conditioning that white supremacy subjected us to. We have no stomach and no patience for any black codependents still running around here trying to figure out how to be everybody's friend, and we want to have alliances, and we're trying to get everybody to like us. Like us, hell, give me my tangibles and I don't care what you think about me. We have a right to our fair share of the world because we established it, and we have a right to our fair share of this country's bounty because we built it. And it's time in 2020 that we put the pedal to the metal to make it clear we're totally unapologetic about reminding people of this fact, and we are not going to let anyone forget that fact, and we're not going to let anyone talk around that fact. You see, in 2015, while some people were trying to focus on pimping their documentary, they wanted to be Emmy-nominated producers. What was happening over here in B1 with the black media was we were telling everybody that Donald Trump is announcing his candidacy, and if the Democrats don't step up with some tangibles, we're going to sit on our hands come election day. See, that's what was going on in the black media in 2015. We weren't over here trying to figure out how do we get the white media to notice us. We were talking about how is it that we're going to be forwarding our people's tangible interests. That's what dominated the discussion here, before other folks erroneously were added to the news cycle. And we will continue pushing for this and continue taking the hard line. We are not trying to figure out how do we slide our way back to the ballot box. No, it's a matter of you got to incentivize the black vote. We're going to condition and train these bastards to understand no tangibles, no vote. That doesn't mean we're going to be sitting on our hands waiting to see if either of the two major parties does right. What it means is we're going to be letting our people know we're supposed to be taking complete control of the levers of power. We are not at all sitting back waiting to see if the Democrats are going to bring along either a policy or a candidate that is acceptable to us. We are driving forward with our interest in making sure that it's our individuals who are going to be in charge of local politics. And that's what's going to be happening in 2020. We're intensifying those efforts. So those of you out there in the B1 Brigade, those of you out there who are as sick and tired of the status quo as we are, if you're looking and going, you know what? I'm willing to say tangibles for those slaves who built this country. I'm willing to get out here and say what hasn't been said. I'm willing to do some political pioneering for black empowerment and be unapologetic about it. If you think you got the spine for it and you're not on some bull jive, You're not trying to figure out how to make yourself useful to the Democrats. Then 2020 is the year for you to stand up and step forward. In 2019, we got in the bastards' faces. Whether it was the political candidates on the road or the producer of political propaganda like Harriet, we showed that we have the ability, the willingness, and the nerve to get in their faces and let them know you did wrong, you messed up, and now we own you. Gina Yashir thought that she was going to get away with trashing us. She thought that she would throw a rock and hide her hands and White Daddy would run interference for her, but we showed her, nah, we can get in your face too, but we're going to go beyond getting in the bastards' faces. Now what's going to happen is we're going to be using the levers of power. We're going to be seizing them, and we're going to be showing people that we can invade the very spaces the white supremacy thought was exclusively theirs. The black agenda is not going to be left to chance. We are going to be forcing it upon this country because that's the only thing that white supremacy understands. White supremacy doesn't understand words. White supremacy doesn't understand reason. Something that you hear the right wing nuts saying all the time is that this world is not governed by truth or justice. Of course not. It's under white supremacy. But what they say is that it is governed by force. And that being the case, we're going to go ahead and put a little bit of muscle behind the message. What is going to be 2020 under black empowerment? In a word, escalation. The rhetoric is going to be escalated. And the advocacy is going to be heightened and escalated. And getting in the bastards' faces is going to be escalated. The next person who I intend to be focusing on is Elizabeth Warren. I do not believe that Bernie Sanders is going to go all the way. And the main reason why is the dude's had a heart attack. And even if the human gaffe machine, Jim Crow Joe Biden, is too incompetent to keep Bernie Sanders from getting the nomination, you better believe Trump is going to be beating that heart attack like a drum. He's going to be reminding people he ain't got the heart for it. It's just a fact. Yeah, Bernie Sanders, he's okay when he's not saying stupid stuff. But the truth of the matter is, it has to be said, he doesn't have the heart for it. I mean, believe me, he doesn't have the heart for it. You don't see me running for president after a heart attack. See, I'm healthy as a horse. Bernie over here, he could drop dead any minute now. I mean, that's just, the attack ads write themselves. And besides, as the pressure mounts, Bernie, if he's already had one heart attack, it's going to be a matter of he's going to be wind up like Hillary Clinton. Hope old boy doesn't have a coronary on stage during the debates, but it's in the cards. Let's just be honest about it. But family, we're going to be getting in these doggone candidates' faces. We're going to be making it a point to be finding out where their campaign appearances are at, where their rallies are at, where their little town halls are at. And it's a matter of, we're not just going to have it where you got Tom Steyer doing a blink and you'll miss it. I know some of you have been out there saying, cut the check. Nah, you've been hearing the message, Tom, but the problem is you ain't been listening. And we are going to establish that we are going to be at the center of American politics. I feel rather like that scene from the movie Malcolm X, 1965, where Malcolm pointed out that 1965 promised to be an explosive year on the racial front. And he wanted to elucidate for everybody his position in the racial struggle. That's what we're doing. 2020 is going to be a pivotal year. The last 10 years has been the decade of decision. And that phrase gets kicked around a lot. People say it about the 1980s, the 1990s and such. People kick around the phrase, the decade of decision. Well, that's what it was for the former slaves in this country. The last 10 years, the 2000 teens or whatever you want to call them, the second decade of the 21st century, this was a decade of decision for us. And we made the right decision. We are moving in the right direction. And we are showing that we not merely have the will, but we also got the focus. But now what we have to show is that we have the consistency. We have the persistence. Our enemies are expecting us to slack off at this point. They're expecting that if they just drown us out with impeachment nonsense, just all this babble and distraction, that we'll get caught up in the shuffle and all this tangibles talk will go away and things will return to what they always have been. No, we got to show these bastards this is the new normal. We're the ones driving the events, not them. Black empowerment is not held hostage to the white news cycle. This particular movement, this particular drive for what we're supposed to have is independent of the white media. It existed before the white media was willing to own up to it before the white media was willing to admit that we were here, and it's going to continue long after the white media begins their no doubt hyper-aggressive air war against us. That's one thing that you notice the Republicans and Democrats are in complete agreement about. Can't agree about much, but what do the Democrats say? These guys are bots and these guys work for the Russians. And what do the Republicans say? These guys are black identity extremists. Yeah, the left and the right can both agree on one thing. Black empowerment must be stopped. And that brings us to the second thing that's going to be happening in 2020. We got to clean house and clean house hard. We had a horrible incident in 2019 where you had white power attempting to hijack the movement. How do you hijack a movement? You get some operatives slithered in. Let them talk a little bit of that stuff like the movement. Let them be counterfeit members of the movement. And then out of nowhere, it's all about baby bonds and it's all about feminism and it's all about voting down ballot. Don't worry about the top of the ticket. We'll get you next election cycle. But first, we got to get you back into the habit of voting again. Even though you ain't going to get a damn thing. Get you voting for nothing again. So what we showed is, nope, you're not going to do what you did in the 70s. Bring in your own counterfeit, pretend facsimile knockoffs of the movement. And you'll have the white media signal boost them. And apparently that's supposed to fracture the movement. Nah, the ones who decided they would chase after lies, that's just separating the wheat from the chaff. The people who were susceptible to lies and just decided that they would not think, they broke the very first tenet of Black First. And the first tenet of Black First is mind control. Control your mind. And if you are weak-minded, then you ain't built for this and you won't be part of this. So that's what we're carrying into 2020 with us. No stowaways on the freedom train. That's how this works. Ain't gonna be no stowaways here. We're checking everybody's freaking tickets. And if we look at that ticket, or if you sitting here going, I ain't got a ticket, but I got the data. Well, then what you're also gonna have is a free trip to the curb. You're gonna get that too. We're going to take control of the social discourse, as I said over a decade ago. That was the mission of the black media, to take control of the social discourse within the black community. And to make sure in 2020 that no one is allowed to slither in and to try to steal control from the true advocates of the black community. Because not everybody who's out here talking pro-black is actually pro-black. A lot of them are just for themselves. A disproportionate number of these people running around, as we've seen, they have not been pro-black at all. They've been at best, and I put best in quotes, pro forma. Look it up. But we're not allowing any charlatans, any fakers, frauds, or phonies. We're not allowing any make-believe here. And family, you got to put your freaking thinking cap on. Part of Black First is we don't need people who need to be told every little thing. You already know who it is and what it's got to be. We need strong-minded people. And not everyone who's trying to talk like us is with us. You want to find out the easiest way to know? Look at how these people regard our master teachers. Look at how they regard the people who paved the way for who and what we are today. You got people who try to cast aspersions on the Dr. John Henrik Clarks, on the Dr. Joseph Ben-Jochannans, on the Francis Cress Welsings, on the Claude Andersons, on the Ivan Van Sertimas. You know, when somebody tries to claim that somebody like a Dr. John Henrik Clarke is a pseudoscientist, like Henry Skip the Gates Truth called him, the damned insult of that, coming from a true pseudo-scholar, an idiot who said that America was a post-racial country after Obama got elected. And just to show you how much Skip the Truth Gates knew, not sooner than Obama got elected, the real America came into Skip Gates' home and arrested him. Well, so much for a real scholar like Henry Skip the Truth Gates. We see how much he knows, but there's a lot of people who still ride with that clown. And there are others who have the nerve to say that our grandmaster teachers, that their teachings and their philosophies and theories and that their following is more like a cult. No, a cult is brain dead and follows after a person. We are strong minded, and that being the case, only a sound argument moves us. There's no individual and there's no arrangement of words that's going to get to us. We don't follow after a particularly clever turn of phrase. I can do a clever turn of phrase on my own. I don't need anyone else for that. I'm going to look at your ideas, and I'm also going to look at you and see whether or not everything lines up. And if I find that you've been out here spitting on our grandmaster teachers, if I find that you've been making it a habit to try to discredit and discount our master teachers, if I look and see that you're out here trying to bring all sorts of false doctrine among our people, things that I know are going to be politically dysfunctional, things that are going to disrupt the internal cohesion of our internal politics, if I look and see that, what's going to happen is we're going to look and go, okay, we got an agent right here. Got an agent right here. And family, you're supposed to be doing the same doggone thing. There is no amount of vetting, there is no particular quality of vetting that the black media does that you are not capable of doing yourself. But unfortunately, too many black folks, I guess we're just eager to see someone who says the truth, that anybody can come along and pretend that they're doing it, and here we go. That ain't good enough, family. And a lot of you out there, if you see the white media put somebody on, I keep telling you, if the white media keeps making it a habit to mention certain people and to put folks on, that's your first clue that the white media is pointing out this is an agent. See, that's the white media's power. Their power is their megaphone. They don't have the ability to persuade, but they do have the ability to hammer you over the head and see if a Pavlovian response kicks in. All too often it does. So in 2020, what's going to happen is the stowaways who have been on the freedom train were showing you the door. And it ain't just the ones who have been out there clearly trying to figure out how to get on the payroll of white supremacy. A lot of you folks out there who have been faking the funk, who have been pretending like you're like this, but truth be told, you have been, for your own reasons, harboring anger and resentment against black empowerment. Perhaps you have some petty little grievance that you've got with some of the new voices of black media. Those folks, guess what? You're going to be in the same position as these other fakers who had to be left at the door in 2019. Jason's been saying it for years, and it's as true now as it was then. Not everybody who made it to 2017 with us was going to make it to 2018. And not everybody who made it to 2018 was going to make it to 2019. And not everybody who made it to 2019 would be making it to 2020. We are not kidding here. We are in a fight for our survival, a fight that up until now we've been largely losing. And it's also because, as the Black Panthers told Jason, one of the biggest mistakes, in fact, the biggest mistake that they made was that they didn't do their due diligence. They didn't vet people. And they did not make sure that they ran out the agents first before they started making major moves. A lot of people thought that it was very cruel and very hard-hearted. A lot of people were whining and complaining when, as the police executions and lynchings of black people ramped up in the second half of the Obama administration, you had a lot of black folks who didn't understand why Jason and myself were saying that, hey, if you got these Negroes who are out here talking this forgive stuff, or they cannot say that the killing of their loved one was racial, then we're not doing anything for them. We're demanding that black people be on code. Oh, isn't that dangerous for us? Their silent complicity, or they're otherwise giving a wink and a nod to white supremacy because they're thinking to themselves that they're going to get some money from the city. That's a far bigger threat than anything that we could do. So we have a right to demand that black people be on code. If you're going to be part of a group, then the group has to have standards, and those standards must be adhered to. Otherwise, what the hell are you doing? So the black folks who were out there, as we saw in 2019 in Dallas, Botham Jean's family was told, nah, y'all, we ain't letting y'all get no money. We've been telling you that the white supremacists were going to be cutting off that lawsuit lottery stuff, and these Negroes, they thought, they wouldn't do that. They just did. One of the things that's been going on the last 10 years is black folks were thinking that every time a black person got shot, we're supposed to get out there and go hard in the paint for them. We're supposed to be putting on the cape for them. And we said, nah, there's going to have to be conditions for that. No, there's conditions for white supremacy. No, there are conditions for black people too. We are not merely going to be talking about our value system. We're going to be enforcing that value system, and the enforcement starts within the group. It starts within the group. A lot of black folks did not understand that, did not like that, because too many black people are ambivalent when it comes to rules. Well, only if the rules are coming from other black people. If you got some black folks who are trying to instill some discipline and who are trying to instill some order, well, unfortunately, black folks are looking and go, well, who are you? Who you think you are? I'll do what I want to do. No, we cannot just do what we want to do. There's going to be rules, and the rules ain't going to be come up. I'm looking for a come up. That's how you kick the door open for a Benjamin Mushmouth Crump or a Mushmouth Moore or a Sleaze Merritt. That's how those vipers are allowed to slither into our community. That's how they're allowed to get close to us, because you got black folks out there who apparently think that their little dumb half-baked hustling is somehow a substitute for having values and for being on, and as far as they're concerned, being on code doesn't even matter. We're teaching black folks that, yeah, it does. Because you're going to be standing out there in front of those cameras by yourself wondering where the black community's at. The black community is looking for some Negroes who actually want the community support and not some bottom feeders looking for a come up. Individuals who, like Stephon Clark, they'll be out there talking that dumb stuff about the police until the police gun them down. Or like Botham Jean's brother, who, as far as he's concerned, he'll gladly offer his own brother as a human sacrifice, long as he gets to hug something blonde-haired and blue-eyed, even if that's the creature that killed him. No, we are making it where on code is actually being enforced. And black people are going to be conditioned now that if you're off code, what it also means is you're off our radar. You're not going to have any support. You're not going to be having anybody out here saying, oh, we should speak up or something ought to be done. No, it's going to be, we'll go ahead and note what happened because it's noteworthy, but that's as far as it's going. We have to teach black people from the inside out what the rules are. We have to teach them what it means to be on code and what the consequences are if you're off code. That's something that had to be established in 2019, and we're carrying it into 2020, and we're going to go even harder with it. Black folks who are thinking to themselves that they're going to hide behind the casket of a black person who was unjustly killed, that's not going to be any sort of guarantee of black support any longer, nor should it be. So those of you who have been playing the game of trying to figure out how to run interference for the agents and saying, oh, brother, y'all need to knock it off. We just need to all get along. No, I ain't trying to get along with no agents. We keep falling for that every freaking time. That's what happened in the Haitian Revolution. After the Haitian Revolution was over, you had people going, oh, we can't be fighting each other. Why? We just got through fighting the French. Yeah, don't do anything about these mulatto Negroes and these turncoats who are trying to figure out how to get in good with Francois and the boys back in Paris. Instead, we need to all just have a nice little kumbaya and don't ask any questions and don't fight for any sort of values or standards and let the old life return. That's what they're really saying. So anytime you see somebody saying, oh, it's sad that y'all is fighting, you're supposed to contend and fight for your part of the world. You're supposed to be contending and fighting for the truth. The truth cannot just be the truth. It must also be told, but it must also be defended too, because there are always those who are attempting to drive a dagger into the heart of truth with nothing but lies. So don't tell me that I need to sit on my hands or that I need to bite my tongue while I see all sorts of lies being promoted to the people. Forget that. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to speak up and continue speaking up. Because my people are worthy of the truth and they've been denied the truth for far too long. All of these little undercover agent advocates, that's the reason why this is a good thing that's going on. We need to have these times when the people who really weren't with this expose themselves. We find out who truly was black first and who basically was here for some other purpose. This is not politically oriented entertainment, and it's not a game or a joke. And the foundation of all black empowerment is one generation to the next, reestablishing that quintessential African tradition, which is that the dead don't die as long as the living continue in their footsteps. And that's the reason why the foundation of everything we do comes back to our grandmaster teachers. That's the reason why we invoke their names. You see, these other people from these other groups, they have true reverence for their elders, elders being the ones who actually contributed to their well-being, who promoted the power of their group, not a bunch of old folk. I don't go to the old folks home and go, these are our elders. Nah, just because you made it to Social Security age, that don't make you an elder. It just makes you an old person. You got to earn the title of elder. And once you've earned the title of elder, what that means is we revere and respect you because of what you have done for your people. We understand the fact that a people who do not defend their advocates will not have any advocates. We have to have people who we can look at and say, these are the ones who have shown us the way. These are the people we revere because they did it right, and we will prosper by their example. When you have a group of people who have been conditioned and who have taught themselves to not stand up for their advocates, to not stand up for their true elders, who teach themselves that it's okay to allow others to downgrade and discredit the people who came before you, who stood up for you before you were even born, who told the truth before you were even born. When you decide that it's okay for people to trample all over your history and all over your historical antecedents, then what's going to happen is you've given them permission and the green light to trample all over you. If you do not stand up for your forefathers and foremothers who actually did the work, the ones who actually did it right, I'm talking about the ones who brought you the knowledge, who made sure to teach you the knowledge properly, who made themselves into a living example. If you do not stand up for these grand foremothers and forefathers of ours, then what you are saying to your enemy, what you're showing your enemy is you do not value the people who were they were your living image before you were even born. They were you before you even came along. They understand. See, these other groups, they understand that because nobody came along and decided that they were going to completely and thoroughly devalue them as human beings and separate them from the definition of human. So no, we're not going to be playing the game of somebody gets to spit on our grandmaster teachers. They get to spit on our advocates. They get to spit on the people who have been doing it right and who taught us how to do it right and taught us the way. And we're just going to look and go, well, we got a difference of opinion. Nah, difference of opinion, my foot. We're not going to allow any slithering vipers on the sidelines to start hissing lies and going, there's plenty of room for multitudes of views. It can't just be one. Don't bring me that crap. I ain't swallowing that garbage. White supremacy is waging a race war against us, and in every war there's two sides, the right side and the wrong side. We've already had some high-profile charlatans who made sure to show everybody what side they stand on. They were trying to be disruptors, and the only thing that happened was they disrupted their own little would-be hustle. They disrupted their own operation. We've made an example of those who thought that they were going to be disrupting us from the inside out. We have made an example of those who figured that black empowerment was going to be undermined from within. We have effectively identified them, isolated them, and exiled them. And that's what happens when you have a group who is serious about their power. When you have a group who makes it clear we stand on principle. And we are not going to be giving any sort of shorts to those who decide that they are going to trample upon our principles. The day and age of allowing for people to come along and just spit on those who are important to us, to spit on our icons, to spit on our grandmaster teachers, to spit on our advocates, and then it's a matter of, will we sit down and break bread with you anyway? To hell with that. The day and age of people being allowed to confuse our internal politics with all sorts of white supremacist noise, and they're bringing all kinds of garbage that ain't going to work, and they get to use our terminology until the time comes for them to inevitably pivot. The day for us allowing these strategies to keep getting used against us is over. And if you're one of the people who goes for the liars because the lies tickled your ears and you like that, well, guess what? You're going to. Black empowerment is for the strong-minded. Black empowerment is for the uncompromising. So what lies ahead for us in 2020? Same as we've been doing. We're going to stay on the path. We're going to stay the course. The goal here is to make sure that we hit the reset button hard. We're going to continue to condition people to understand that the former slaves' eyes have opened, but more importantly, the former slaves have found some steel in their spines. And no, you're not going to be sending some interlopers to try to lead us off course, because there is a resurgent and strident black media on the march to make sure that our people stay on the path. A black media that's not going to make excuses for those who come in here talking the wrong way, thinking the wrong way, and doing things the wrong way. We know what needs to be done. We've always known. Now what's happening is we're making it mandatory to do it. So family, you make sure that you keep your eyes and ears open. When you have people who think that it's okay and try to make excuses for spitting on our icons, that's not one red flag, that's 3 red flags. When you got people who are trying to bring us all sorts of doctrine that has no place and is completely incompatible with black empowerment, I don't give a damn how much of a lip service they may give to the principles of Black First. I don't care how much lip service they may give to our talking points, how much they may try to imitate our rhetoric. You may have the words, but the question is, do you have the deeds to go along with them? You may know what the words are, but my question is, are you actually embracing the ideology? Because what's going to happen is, I already know what the good white liberals have told their black bootlicks. We know exactly what the white liberals have taught. So what's going to happen is we're going to go ahead and turn those sacred cows to hamburger, and we're going to watch as at first you try to put up a brave front and, okay, I'm not very bothered, but we're going to keep on grinding on you, because that's what we've been doing for over a decade. That's the reason why we keep coming back when we use phrases like bastard baby makers, when we point out the people who are low information do nothings. That's why we keep harping on those things. People who are more concerned with the alphabet agenda than they are a black agenda. We keep harping on those things because we know that if we do it long enough, sooner or later, you're going to crack. They always do. Bootlicks are not strong-minded at all. They got linguini spines. So all we got to do is keep kicking and keep hacking and slashing away at their little sacred cows. And sooner or later, they're going to speak up because they have to. And that's when they identify themselves. You know, when it comes to certain organizations who will go nameless, when they think that they might have an informant, or just as a form of informant insurance, one of the things that they'll do is they'll tell a new would-be recruit, a new would-be adherent, nobody's going to trust you unless you got some dirt on your hands. You got to put in some work. We got to see some sweat on that brow. And this agent, this informant, this government agent, they're going to be looking and going, well, I can't do that. Why, that would be against the rules that white supremacy tells me I have to enforce. So I can't do that. It's like, as soon as you do that, okay, that's what we thought. We thought you were an agent. We got to be serious about this, family. So going into 2020, we're going to be focusing our efforts on Elizabeth Warren next. And be sure you're going to have the usual idiots trying these guys are Republicans. Yeah, because we sit here telling black folks to vote for Donald Trump. How many times have I told black people vote for Donald Trump? Nobody says to vote for Trump, but they'll keep doing it because it's the only lie that they've got. They don't have any new material. And they invalidate themselves the more that they say it, because it's obvious to everyone what it is that we truly stand for. But what we're going to be standing against is all of the anti-black racism that has gone unanswered for a century and a half. Finally, we're going to be giving a reply, and that reply is going to be forceful. Those of you who are looking at the political landscape and thinking that maybe it's time for some of these B1 advocates to start doing some pioneering in politics, this is the time for you to be getting your paper and pencil together and start crunching the numbers. How many dollars do you need? It's usually not more than a few thousand. Typically, if you got between $5,000 and $10,000, and usually not more than $6,000, you can get yourself on the city council in most cities that you're in, especially if you burn up a lot of shoe leather and start finding out how many votes do I need. Most people do not vote on election day. And if you look at the record of whatever councilman or alderman or whatever county commissioners in your area, you usually find that they have the same number of people who turn out each and every time. But if you look at the number of eligible voters, especially in the black areas, you'll find that most of the people stayed home. This happens to be a very golden hour for us to step forward and present a real alternative. It reminds me of something that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said. If you take contaminated water and put it in front of somebody, lead water that's got lead deposits in it, people will drink it if they're thirsty enough. But if you offer them an alternative, offer them some pure water, give them the alternative, they'll go for that. Don't believe it? The black media stands as a living example of that truth. Whatever happened to Roly-Poly Martin? We sent the bastard packing. Whatever happened to Melissa Harris Lacewell von Stubenberg round the world in 80 days Harris? We sent her packing. What happened to Joy Reid? Delegitimized, exposed. What happened to Don Lemonade? Well, what's happened to him is he's realizing that basically he's the last Negro standing at CNN, and well, there's no point in him trying to pretend as if he's going to be talking black. Ain't nobody buying it. See, the black media presented a real alternative to the people, and the people have accepted it. Go and do likewise. You are not alone, so don't play the game of, I can't find nobody to build with. You take this message, and what you'll find very quickly is there's been a lot of people who have been waiting for someone to stand up and to champion black first. And when you do, you're going to find that you had support you didn't even know you had. But it starts with you. You got to take that first step. In 2020, we're not making excuses for what we can't do. We're not making excuses for what we haven't done. 2020 is going to be the year that we step up our efforts, where white supremacy is going to find that we're not stepping on their toes, we're stepping on white supremacy's non-existent cojones. We're no longer breathing down their necks. Now we're going to be staring the bastards in the face. What we did last year with the presidential candidates, what we did last year with Gina Yashir, what we did last year with Deborah Martin Chase, this is going to be setting the tone for 2020. We're going to make it a point that these bastards are not going to be allowed to anymore spit on us or anymore decide that they're going to be slapping us in the face and then just walking off and, I guess that's that. No more. You better believe all these things are going to be coming to a head. You better believe that. And we're going to be ready for it. 2020 is going to be the year that Black First escalates.